Okay, so here we are, week 14. I wanted to kind of recap how I see the end of the semester playing out here, and kind of put things in context for you. So the first thing is go into calendar and go in and schedule your conference. It's just like we did before, so there shouldn't be any surprises there. Same thing as before. Also, we're going to make sure we take conference notes and put those up. Getting the conference grade is really not coming to the conference or signing up for the conference, but it's taking the conference notes. So make sure you do a good job. Um, so I think the way we should proceed is this way. Look at the long essay. And so in the long essay, I give you some topics. I give you 4 topics. They're really big, broad topics. And the topics that I chose for the long essay and the argumentative essay were the things that I saw that y'all wrote the best on. And so I tried to make that as big and broad as possible. So it didn't seem that we could do medieval properly in the wind-up here without talking about Christianity, if that's one you want to do. And I gave you like a bunch of questions under Christianity, if any of those seem to be important. Um, then social institutions and behaviors, I put that one in there also. I think that one's a good one because we can fit a lot of things under there also. Um, Church and state is one that y'all did well on, so make sure you take a look at church and state. That one I'm really thinking of like the temporal and spiritual authority. If you wrote on that last time, don't write on this one again. Don't write on that one again. And then I gave some questions there also, and then education and or medicine as kind of important to it. And really, I did that one for the stuff that we did towards the end um, of the piece of our time in the book. So those are the 4 topics. Of course, you can also write a paper where you tell me why or why not modern students should study the Middle Ages. So from your perspective, but that one could be a little harder because you need to supply still articles to show me why you should or should not, and then critical articles still to show me why you should not. And then last, you could just propose a topic to me privately. But if you're going to do that, you need to send that to me pretty early so you can get that kind of hammered out. Beyond that, regular parameters for our stuff. 6 pages. Normally I go up to a 7-page or 8-page for the for the long essay, but because I cut out the material, the reading material, for at the end here, because those last 2 sections weren't very good, and I apologize for that. I didn't realize it when I was looking at them again that I thought they were okay, but they weren't very good. So normally I go up in pages, but I didn't this time. So we're just doing 6 pages again. 6 pages means 6 pages. Don't fall short of the 6 pages. 6 pages means 6 full pages, not even 1 line short. Um, and then as far as source work for it, you need 3 primary sources. That means the stuff out of our readings, and then 3 secondary sources. That means the database article stuff that you're used to. Don't do any Google searching. I don't want you out there. Those sources typically are not credible. So don't go to any other sources. And then the regular stuff that you've been working with the whole time. So there's no new parameters there. You can use any of the stuff that you have written previously, but you can't reuse something you wrote on for the last essay or the things that came from it. So don't reuse long essay stuff from last time, and don't reuse stuff that you used to make the long essay from last time. Anything else you can reuse or do something different. Remember, these things are going to be in and turn it in, and then turn it in to me by the 10th. All right, so on the way to doing that, what I did is I set up the week 14 weekly writing to be a 2-page version of that. It's the same parameters. You only just need to give me one primary source, so one of our readings, and then one of our secondary sources, so one of the critical articles. So that's why I'm doing that as a chance for us to look at it, and also then we have something to talk about in the conference. We can see whether this looks like it's heading the right way or whether it needs some refashioning. All right, so there's that one. Y'all are used to doing the 2 pages. I don't think you have much difficulty with that, but I just want you to think of the 2 pages as a rough draft for the long essay. As such, when it comes down to the end of the 2-pager, it doesn't need a completed conclusion because you're not to that point yet. But you could bullet point out for me where you think the next paragraphs are going. But anyway, 2 pages is what I'm asking for on this one. Obviously, if you write more, the more we have to look at, the more we can say whether this looks good or bad. All right. The ABs, I still want to make sure that we do those. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to be thinking ahead of how you're going to see this stuff coming together. So I want you to do 3 of the scholarly articles that you think you could use for this essay. So that I'm trying to make you do some of the work up front before you actually start to write, so that when it comes time to write, you actually have something to write because you've already done the research and you've already been thinking about it. All right, let's see, what else? I think those are the major things that I want to talk about as far as assignment goes. All right, so now I want to talk about how I see this process going together. If it were me and I were in your position doing what you have to do, the first thing I would do is come up with a thesis based on one of those topics. Again, those topics are pretty broad, so be careful on what you choose there. But for me, if I were writing, I'd probably write on education. The last stuff that we read is on my mind about education. Obviously, I'm an educator, so I probably like the education stuff. So I would probably go there. So I would come up with a thesis about education. The topic is clearly education. Now, the argument and the point that you would like to make, or the argument and the reason you would like to go along with that thesis, well, you have to come up with that. But do come up with a thesis before you do anything else. Now, it may not be a perfect thesis, and you may need to revise it or change it along the way as you start to write this and look at your sources. And that's fine. In fact, that's a really authentic way to write. But don't start to research before you have a thesis, at least in your mind. Trying to research, and not have an idea of what you want to use primary source-wise is silly. Okay, so come up with a thesis based on kind of what you want to talk about. Then go find the 3 primary sources that you think you're going to use. The reason I'm saying find the primary sources first is because whatever primary sources you use is going to be indicative of where and what you need to research as you go into the databases. If you're going to use something about Roger Bacon, well, you need to know that so that when you go in there and look for something on Roger Bacon and languages and education, that it seems really evident to you that that's what you're looking for. If you just have the idea of education in the medieval period and that's what you put in the database, you're going to get too much stuff back. So that's why I'm saying have a thesis that will tell you, kind of point you towards your primary sources, your book readings that you want to use, which will help you point you towards your secondary sources. All right, so that's the way that I would proceed, and then use the rough draft as some kind of way to do that, as a way to kind of think through some of that and at least attempt what you want to write about. It may be that when you start to write on it, this 2-pager, you recognize, boy, this is no good. This is not what I want to write about. Make sure you still turn in the 2-pager. We still want that. But then in the conference, we can talk about what you might want to do to rearrange that. Okay, I think those are most of the things that I worked through. Oh yeah, some of the things that these topics don't include is like Black Plague, or it doesn't talk about the Lord's Manor and how all the people that go into the Lord's Manor, like the bailiff and the Haywarden and all those guys. It also didn't say anything about the knights and the courtly love. It also doesn't say anything about the Crusaders. You can write about any of those things also. You just need to send me that topic. But if you look at it, those things broadly go into some of these larger categories also. All the things that I just mentioned probably go into social institutions and behaviors. But just because I don't mention it here doesn't mean you can't write about it. I'm just using these as big, broad terms for you to get to thinking about these things. But I recognize I can't list everything. But if there's something you want to write about, shoot me an email and let's talk about it. All right. Hope that's enough. Thanks. Bye. Hey, yeah. And good luck on this last stuff. All right. See you at the conferences.